Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to Genesis. I'm very happy and pleased to welcome the Ancient Roots Mothering with Rivkah. If I may say your family name, will it be okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rivkah
Rivkah Asoulin and Chava Dagan. I understand that we are missing Gilla Weiss this time. But I'm very happy that you're here, and I'm going to try not to disturb you so you can educate us. So the floor is yours. Please.
Thank you.
And maybe you can just introduce your projects and everything that you guys are doing, because I know you personally and you are relentless. It's like so many beautiful things that you're doing. I'm sure both of you.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, firstly, Gilla is not with us. She's in second day of Chag in the United States. So, קודם כל, ברוכים הבאים. אנחנו מבינים עברית וגם מדברים, אבל העברית שלי זה לא כמו האנגלית שלי. אז בגלל זה אנחנו מדברים באנגלית היום, ותודה על הסבלנות איתנו. So we don't have Gilla tonight, that's the first thing, but you can find Gilla and find more about Gilla at sageandhoney.com, SAGEANDHONEY.com. And Chava here can be found at nettlesandpins.com, all of her amazing activities. And you can find me and all of us as well on ancientrootsisrael.com. We are involved with a lot of projects, but Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage is our trio. We have a monthly seminar with the Root and Branch Association. You can find all of that on the Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage page at ancientrootsisrael.com. And you can sign up for our monthly podcasts, and we offer classes. We just had a class in Herbal First Aid, which is available for purchase currently. And we have a second one in the works. Lastly, we have the International Conference, Ancient Roots Israel, which is an herbal medicine conference, the first international herbal conference and community in Israel. Tickets will be going on sale next month. If you would like to be on our mailing list to know when those tickets are available, again, you can sign up for the mailing list on ancientrootsisrael.com, scroll down to the bottom to sign up. And you can learn more about herbal medicine, which we will be covering a little bit this evening. Hope that introduced you well enough, Chava. Take it away.
Okay. So with all of that, we, the three of us, do many podcasts on the topic, kind of what we're dealing with here today, which is becoming self-sufficient. And not just self-sufficient like you can make your own sauerkraut. Self-sufficient in your body, your mind, your spirit. And how do we do that? How do we break away from the government and all of their stupid, crazy systems? How do we do it? It looks like impossible, right? We all have a phone. We have a credit card. We are tied to our jobs. We're tied to our loans or mortgages on our house. How could we possibly step away? So when you look at the huge picture, it looks overwhelming and it looks almost impossible. But what we do is come back to the basics, what Rivkah and Gilla and I talk about all the time. Go outside, start getting to know the flora around you, all the herbs that are growing outside, simple things like mallow. Okay, I'm just going to use an example. Mallow grows everywhere, chubeza in Hebrew. Most people know it on sight. If you don't, ask someone. But it's like these simple things. Okay, so now I know what mallow is. Now what do I do with it? So one thing is always leading to the next. And that's how we take it, step by step. Now all of a sudden, you know an herb. You're going to get to know how to cook with it, how to use it medicinally, how to use it with your children, how to use it dry, how to use it wet, how to use it in oil, all these things. And it just takes one step at a time. So now you're great with mallow. What about nettles? Okay. This all started for me. I'm just going to go back a ways. I was a new mom. I didn't know anything about anything. I was following the system. I was doing what I was told. I was about to have a child, and it was supposed to be in a hospital. But there was something that didn't sit right with me. So I found a midwife. I had it all planned out that I was going to have a home birth. In the end, the fear around all the people who knew me, my husband's family, my husband himself, pushed me into a position of going into the hospital. In hindsight, I'm actually very glad, because now I know exactly what happens in these places. The way the mother is treated, the drugs that are pushed on her, how the father is pushed out of the way, basically can be an observer, but not an integral part of the birth, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very grateful that I was there, even though it was a horrible experience. But now I can understand what people have to go through in these places. The next one and the next 5, I had at home. Once I started having a home birth, I don't know if you remember, Rivkah, you sent me a little meme about what is the establishment afraid of these home births? Why are they so afraid of them? The thing that happens with a woman when she takes her own body, her own child's welfare and responsibility into her own hands and has her own birth with no interruptions and no drugs and no doctors and no noises and machines and all of these things, she is empowered, like incredibly empowered. And when a woman becomes empowered like that, she is ungovernable. Can you imagine a country filled with 10 million people, half of which are probably women, ungovernable? And when she becomes ungovernable, she inflects that onto those around her. She influences those around her, including her husband, including the family and friends. All of a sudden, they see this incredible self-confidence and wisdom coming through using her intuition that influences them to start acting into their own self-confidence and their own intuition, right? So then all of a sudden, I have a home birth. Wait a minute. I'm not ready to give this beautiful, amazing baby some chemical powdered, whatever milk. Of course I'm going to give her my own milk and breastfeed the baby. Then that happens, and that releases a ton of hormones that just go straight into mother-baby connection. Well, wait a minute. If I have this connection, why would I send this child to a gun and then into the whole system? I want to educate my child. I want to connect with my child. So the next step then is to keep the baby at home and homeschool him, right?
Well, let's go back to the beginning, because the question is, how do we start by getting out of the matrix? What's step 1? And so let's start where life begins. The mother conceives her baby. And so the first thing she's told to do, it's like a wave. You get carried away on this wave, and you just do whatever the next authority figure tells you to do. So a woman gets pregnant, and what is the first thing she does? She's got to run to Super Farm, right? And get the pregnancy test to know that she's pregnant. She has to give money to the pharmaceutical company to confirm her own pregnancy. We need to stop and think about that, because for thousands plus years, we never had pharmaceutical companies to confirm our pregnancies. We knew our bodies. We understood our cycles. We understood when we stopped cycling, when we did not have a monthly menstrual period, this meant something. And after it happened a certain amount of times, there were changes in our bodies. We were sensitive to the changes in our bodies. And we were able to determine whether we were pregnant or not without any sort of outside authority. And then we told the father, our husbands, that we were pregnant. We shared that news with him. And he never said, show me the positive pregnancy test. When we said we're pregnant, he understood that we were pregnant. Okay? In general, that's how things worked. But then they move us along. They keep going, because once you take that home pregnancy test, it's not enough, is it? We need to go and have the blood test. We need to go to the Rofei Nashim, to the OBGYN. And we need to do the blood test. We need to do the sonogram, right? We need to see how big the baby is. And then we need to go back and we need to see that there's a heartbeat. But this is all feeding into a system. It's all surveillance on us. It's all an external system, a government system where our ID cards that we have with our numbers on them say the most intimate details of our lives for everyone, the government and everyone else to see. So how do we step out from that? It's weird. It's not new, but it's new to us. We stop and figure out how to know when we're pregnant with this new life. And then we don't go into any beast system, any government system, and give our ID number and go and have tests to confirm all of these things. We figure out how our ancestors did this, which is why we call ourselves ancient roots mothering. We go back to our ancient roots from our ancient ancestors to see what did they do so that they weren't stuck in a matrix, stuck in a beast system, stuck in a government system. And we can do this, and Chava and I, you might want to pick up here, but we have done this ourselves, as curious as it's been to other people. Go without pregnancy tests. Go without the monthly checkups or the weekly checkups. Go without ever seeing our baby's heartbeat on a sonogram or listening to a heartbeat outside of maybe a stethoscope or a fetoscope, which is a fetoscope. If you don't know what it is, it's kind of this long, usually a wooden tube that amplifies sound. And it's not electronic in any way, shape, or form. It just amplifies from the hollow echo almost. And you put the end of the fetoscope, it's small on one end and it gets larger on the bottom. You put it right on the mother's belly and you move it around until you find the heartbeat. And you don't expect to hear a heartbeat in early pregnancy where you would need a Doppler or all of those other things. You expect to hear it later when, this woman is in the second half of her pregnancy. And everyone's at peace with that. If the woman's feeling the baby move, we know that the baby's okay. Do we need to check her iron, her Barzell? Do we need to do that stuff? Not really, because we didn't have those blood tests and the pharmaceuticals and the lab tests in the past. In the past, we looked at how a woman felt. Was she feeling really tired and run down? We looked at her diet. We looked at her exercise. We looked at her life circumstances. Was she caring for a lot of small children at home? We could do things like say, let's up your iron. Let's eat more meat, organ meats, or let's eat more iron-rich vegetarian foods or whatever it was, more iron-rich foods. Let's use iron-rich herbs, such as yellow dog, to help the mother acquire more iron. Let's cook in cast iron skillets instead of aluminum. There's a link between aluminum and Alzheimer's. And people have been using iron. It was called the Iron Age for a reason. People have been using iron for millennia. And the iron, when you use a cast iron skillet or an iron Dutch oven or something, that iron transfers to the food during the heat, and that can increase a woman's iron. So that's how we move through pregnancy. And when we move through birth, as Chava mentioned, we don't need any external authority to get the baby out of us. We don't need to deliver a baby to anyone. We birth a baby, and we do that on our own. And for Chava and for myself, we've done that sometimes completely by ourselves, sometimes with the help of a wise woman, not a me'aleret the way we understand it today in Israel. A traditional wise woman, someone who did not go through the pharmaceutical system where she had to get a degree and learn about the Western medical model and demonstrate proficiency in it and work in a hospital, i.e. government setting, in order to learn her craft. This is a woman who learned her craft by apprenticing with another midwife and by going into women's homes and watching healthy natural birth over and over and over And as we learn from our own Torah, Miriam, as in Moshe's sister, Miriam, would go around with her mother, Yocheved, who was a midwife. And she would assist her mother and learned the trade of midwifery from her mother. She never saw a hospital birth. She never saw women hooked up to IVs or shaved or cut open, their vaginas cut open in what's called an episiotomy. She never saw that sort of thing, or protocols, or what you do to avoid getting sued. She saw her mother go into women's houses and give birth naturally, and so she just expected that that's how it should be, and she learned the trade from her mother, and this is what went on. And of course, after birth, the idea of going to a pharmaceutical company or Nestle or something like that in order to get formula, as Chava said, would be completely abhorrent. Why would we try to do what God has already done perfectly? Created nourishment in our breasts, specifically made for our own babies. Breast milk is filled with antibodies for every illness that we encounter. So if you're a mother and you've been ill and your body has made antibodies to that, your baby's going to get those antibodies. If you're a mother who's got other children running around who are sick and wiping their nose around baby, mom is going to develop antibodies to all the other germs she's exposed to in her children. And she will pass those antibodies along into her breast milk, and therefore breastfed babies have a robust immune system buffered by mother's antibodies, and that can never be recreated in formula, meaning a bunch of chemicals thrown together in a lab. That can never, ever be recreated, and no one ever mentions that in the commercials when they say, like, Nestle or whatever, Materna, just like the real thing, or it's not just like the real thing, not by any stretch of the imagination. It contains no antibodies except for maybe cow antibodies that a cow has developed in a farm where it's been injected with hormones and all of those other things. And I still meet women here in Israel who don't realize that formula comes from cows or soybeans. They don't know where formula comes from. So then the next thing is, once we're already doing that, just like Chava said, we build the connection. Now we're under a load of pressure to take our children to Dagan. And maybe Chava should take over here because she's got really a beautiful experience with the pressure of putting her children in Dagan and what she did about that.
Okay. So, yeah, it was, I had my baby and he was at home, the first one. And of course, the regular part of, as Rivkah said, the wave that kind of takes you along from system to system. The next expectation was to put my baby in the system, in the kindergarten or the Dagan, whatever you want to call it. And I was ready because, again, I didn't know anything. But there was something that didn't feel right. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it in a little while. A couple months ago, a little while. In a little while. He's not ready. In a little while. Until eventually a few years went by and I realized I am not sending my child to the kindergarten, and that's that. For a while, it was like, yeah, in a little while, because I really felt like that's what he was supposed to do. Lots of pressure from my husband's family, all of his sisters, aunts, everybody, the neighbors, when are you putting him in? But I had that feeling inside of me that it was not right. I did not want my child to fall down and look for someone to take care of him, and it wasn't me. And whether or not they were going to care for him, whether or not they're going to feed him properly, whether or not he's going to feel at all as a part of this world rather than just another number. So I decided not to and never looked back. So part of what's the next step, how do we get started with this whole stepping away from the system? There's two parts to it. One is the physical disengagement, and then the next would be the mental, spiritual, emotional part of it. So one kind of follows the other, is what I've had so much experience with. If I sit and talk about when I'm going to separate myself from all of these different systems. When I'm ready, when the time is right, when I get prepared, when. But those days continue going on. And you never actually get there because life just kind of piles on top of you, and the time is never right. You're never ready. You're never ready financially, or you're never ready the garden, or you're never ready. One day. So what I suggest with this stepping away and breaking free of the systems is to actually physically do it. Whether that would be take a shovel, go outside and dig a hole and plant a seed. Super simple, right? Take it from the tomato, go outside, put it, water it. You've done something physical. Now all of a sudden the rest starts falling into place. Now you're like, wait a minute, I'm about to grow my own tomatoes. That self-confidence comes out. And then the excitement and the experimental part of you comes out. Well, now I want to try cucumbers. Maybe I can grow some, squash. And then it just kind of tumbles over you. And the more you do, the more self-confidence comes out, the more free you feel, because now you don't have to run to the grocery store for everything. You know how to plant your own vegetables. Even if it's just something that you brought home from the grocery store, a potato, for instance. You go outside and dig a hole, water it. Eventually, more potatoes come out of that potato. And now you don't need to, buy potatoes. So now you've got tomatoes taken care of, and cucumbers and potatoes. And it starts growing. From the physical action comes the emotional and the spiritual and the mental, because now the physical part you started breaking away by growing your own vegetables. But now the mental part of, well, I don't need that system. I don't need the grocery store like I used to. Now I can become more independent and take care of my family. Rivkah, do you want to add something?
Yeah, well, there's so many directions this can go in. We started with the beginning in the person's perception. And then we kind of...
Rivkah, I apologize. We can't hear you properly.
Oh, no.
Now I can. You have to be closer to the mic. Yeah.
Sorry. We've kind of moved along through Dagan, but that's right. Chava's touching on all of these other systems. It's not just with raising kids. If you don't have children, no problem. You have a million other ways that you can get out of the system. I want to encourage everyone to first realize what systems we are in, because sometimes we don't even see it. When people ask me about if my children went to school or went to Dagan, and I say, no, I don't institutionalize my children, I get very weird looks. What do you mean? Put someone in an institution. Sometimes we think about it with a Beit Avod, right? Where there's a negative connotation. Like, you don't want to put Saba or Savta in the Beit Avod. It's an institution. It's not such a good place. It's not so, you don't want to go to a jail, to a Beit Kele. You don't want to do that. It's not such a good place. Everyone's got the same meal, and everyone's got the time to be outside and have recess. But people don't understand that the Ma'on and the Gan and the Beit Sefer, the school system, is an institution. Just like a mental institution, like a mental hospital or a prison, a Beit Kele, okay, or any of these other things. It's a true institution. We are standardizing our children, standardizing everything they learn. Certainly in the American system, it's a little bit different, but we standardize what they eat. Here, maybe more Israeli children pack their own aruchot deser, their own lunch or something. But there is usually a school lunch option. There's a time for the bathroom, a time that everyone eats, a time when they get to go outside and play. Everything is regimented in an institution. This is not for people. The Torah teaches us that it's one of the mitzvot, one of the 613 mitzvot, to teach our children according to their way. So if you are religious in any way, okay, this doesn't have to be that kind of religious like me, that could just mean that you fast on Yom Kippur or you light the candles. If you're Masorti, if any of the traditions of our people, of our ancestors, are important for you, then you have to understand that, like lighting candles and keeping Shabbat and all of these things, we are commanded by our God to teach each child according to his way, to educate our children. And we throw it away. We give it away to someone else. Now, when Chava talked about she didn't want her child to kind of get hurt and look to someone else for loving care, when you are an attached mother or father to your child, the idea that your child would be crying and you wouldn't run to that child and hold your child and be there makes you sick. It makes you want to vomit. It makes you really sick. And yet, this happens almost every time when a child is first introduced to an institution. The child is screaming and crying, Ima, Abba. And the parents told, walk away, leave him, it's good for him. It is not good for him to be crying and his parent to walk away. It's not good. It's bad. It's wrong. I don't know why they want us to believe that it's good. I don't know why they want us to believe a lot of things are good that aren't good. But it's evil and it's wrong. And if you listen inside, you'll know that that's correct. There is a time when children do grow up and they go away. I have soon to be an adult in the house. Chava has adult children. They do leave. And they don't cry like that. But if they do cry at age 18 or 24 or 36, it doesn't matter. You as the Ima or the Abba still would want to reach out to them and give them a hug and care for them. But it's not only here. A lot of times we get sucked into the medical matrix, which is what Chava was suggesting when she said you should plant your own seeds, because it goes into that direction, okay? It's food and it's medicine. And in ancient times, food and medicine were both the same thing. We would use food to nourish ourselves and our families and to heal ourselves and our families when we were sick or when they are sick. We believe that if something happens to us, like we have an eye infection, it could become very serious very quickly. We could lose our eyesight and we have to run to the rofe, run to the doctor, give our card again with our number and our personal ID so that the government has a record of every single illness, deleket, everything. They've got a record of every single thing we have. And we pay the money to the pharmaceutical company. A lot of Israelis, because we have socialized healthcare, socialism, communism, socialized healthcare, they don't realize that they are paying the pharmaceutical company for the antibiotica. They don't realize it because they don't take the money out of their pocket and give it. Instead, your kupa takes the money that you pay them every month and gives it to them in huge amounts. And in a socialized system, even if you don't use the system, if you're paying in or your employer is paying in for you, the pharmaceutical gets your money no matter what. You don't have to take it. They're still getting your money. You're still feeding the beast. You're still feeding the matrix, and you're still plugged in. Chava and Gilla and I began Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles and Sage, and our first herbal first aid class for this very reason. I was on a group here on Telegram, and a woman wrote in that she was very upset because she had deleket ba'ayin. She had an eye infection, and it was awful. It was pussy, and she couldn't see, and she was so scared. But she didn't want to wear a mask because ani petura. She was exempt. And she called the different kupot and she called the different doctors and she called around. She said, I can't wear the mask. I'm exempt. I have a deleket ba'ayin. I have an eye infection. I need to come in. Nobody would allow her to come in. no kupa, no rofe, no anyone in Israel would allow this woman to come in, get her eye checked, and receive antibiotics for her eye. They didn't agree. And she wrote on this Telegram group that she was terrified she was going to go blind or something horrible would happen because she couldn't get in to see a doctor, but she couldn't wear the mask either. And she didn't know what to do. And it upset me so much because taking care of an eye infection is typically so simple that almost anybody with even very average intelligence, even a below average IQ, could probably solve that problem themselves. And certainly my children solve that problem themselves without my input anymore. Pass it to Chava about that.
If you don't mind, I would actually like to ask, what is the remedy for eye infection? I actually have one now.
It's been going around. There's a virus. I think it's a viral eye infection that's going around. If you believe in viruses, if not, we can talk about it later. I don't care what it's called. I don't care what it's called. I don't care if it's a virus or it's, exosome or terrain to me, it doesn't matter. I don't care. What I care about is if someone has an eye infection and one of the kids has it, and then a week later, another kid has it and whatever, it's a contagious eye infection. They're passing it to each other. And I need to figure out how to heal them. I've had conversations with people who say there's no virus and what. That's part of being stuck in the matrix, in my opinion. It doesn't matter if there's viruses or not. That's irrelevant. All our job is to do, we don't need to give things scientific names or look at things under a microscope. We need to look and see, is there illness? How do we heal it? How do we heal ourselves and those we love? And maybe even those we don't love. How do we heal them? So the question is, what can we do for an eye infection? So I'll throw out a few things, but if you want to know more, you're going to need to take the Herbal First Aid course. Number 1 is for sale right now. Number 2 is coming up. Number 1 is a prerequisite because we teach you how to make your own herbal remedies. And one of them is to make it a wash, okay, which is really just a strong tea, but we give detailed instructions about how to do that. And so you can do that out of several different herbs for your eye. And you can either use it as eye drops, or you could dip. I usually have things to demonstrate with, like little cotton balls, right? But you can dip some cotton into that tea that you made, and you can lay it over your eyes, which is especially nice for children that don't want to open their eyes and have drops put in. So a few herbs, when we're evaluating herbs for an eye infection, we want to make sure that we have a gentle herb for the eyes because the tissue is very delicate. And we don't want any type of herb that could cause burning. So I won't mention any because then someone will use it and say I said to do it for that. But instead, some different herbs that might be worthwhile for you would be calendula, which is called in Hebrew calendula, and chamomile, which is chamomilla, okay? And not together. You can do it, just one is all you need. You can even use a regular black tea bag, a black tea that doesn't have any essential oils or flavorings in it, because flavorings are usually essential oils, and those essential oils can burn when they have contact with the skin. So you would want just a plain black tea in those tea bags, and you could lay that over your closed eyes. Chava, you want to jump in with a few other ideas?
I think it's enough. It's a good teaser. You just demonstrated how much knowledge you guys have. So let's.
Those are 2 that just jump up, but there are many, many more. But to learn how to do it safely, it's very easy, and we explain it in our very first class, the first class in our first course, how to make such a wash so that you could start healing yourself right away. And I did it that way because I was so upset about this woman with the eye infection. I wanted to make sure if she did join the class, she would have her answer right away.
Yeah, thank you. Back to you, Chava.
Okay, so we've covered sort of ideas on how we as an individual can very small steps, planting a seed outside, keeping your child home instead of sending him to the Dagan, these very simple little steps, each one building on the other. But I want to touch a little bit on how that one person can affect everyone around them, including your own children. And if not your children, your sisters, brothers' children, your cousins, nephews, neighbors even, okay? Because this is so simple, but like incredibly important. We harp on this over and over again as a team, because I don't think people really, really realize how important it is what children observe, okay? So if I am all of a sudden getting into my traditional, ancestral, intuitive role, and I'm really coming into myself, me as a woman or my husband as a man, a father, okay? And then the effect of our children seeing us playing out these roles, and not in a fake way by putting on some, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, but then we do something completely different. Me as a mother, as a woman in the house, and I'm not saying everyone needs to become a traditional housewife. I don't mean, to step on anyone's careers. But me as learning, I'll just say as a new wife and then a new mother, right? All of a sudden I have a family to feed, and I don't want to go out and buy fast food or junk food or something that's already packaged and pre-planned. I have to learn to cook. Now, as my children grow older and they're watching me in the kitchen and helping me to cook, and not just take something out of the freezer and stick it in the microwave. That's not the same thing. Starting from scratch, using raw materials, learning how to bake bread, how to make homemade cheese, how to make your own pasta, your own vegetables that you might have picked from the garden. Even from the shuk, it doesn't matter. You're making from scratch a meal, trying to figure out how much to make so that it covers enough for everyone to eat, right? You want all the nutritional aspects covered so that it's a healthy meal. All of these things my children are observing. Now, a girl in that position would now start gaining the skills of a future mother, nourisher, person that takes care of people in the home. Same thing as my husband. He goes outside and he's playing around. I call it playing, right? No offense, men. He's playing with his tools. He's building stuff. That child who's hanging out with him is watching him build things, come up, create either tools that we need, or benches, or tables, or digging in the garden, or sawing the wood. The trees need to be trimmed. So he has to go out and he has to cut down certain branches. Then we need them in a certain size so we can use them in the fireplace. All of these things the men are outside doing, using their muscles, their body that God gave them to do this hard work, while the women are nourishing everyone in the home. And I'm not saying, of course, we can't step outside and we can't help and we can't garden. That's not at all what I'm saying. But there's these traditional roles and a reason for them, because we affect our children. We impact what they see, and they see how to do it, and it goes into their consciousness. Even if a little baby is playing in the dirt while I am actually digging and putting in a garden, he is there, he's involved, he's in the dirt, and he's helping, and subconsciously he'll remember it when he's 20 and then starts building his own garden. Okay? These are just examples of gender roles in the family, who is the head of the family, what the matriarch does, what the patriarch, what is his role, how does he connect with his children, how does he educate him as a father. All of these things are thrown out the window when we put them into the system, into the kindergarten, into the schools. The children do not grow up seeing any of that. Most of their day is spent at a desk, sitting down in an air-conditioned room, staring at some blackboard, not gaining one single skill. As a woman, as an example, who taught her how to bake bread, who taught her how to sew, who taught her how to make her children's clothes, who taught her how to make medicine, who taught her how to use the herbs and things outside? No one. They're down copying useless, I'm sorry, but useless material that they're copying off of a whiteboard. And then that child grows up with zero skills. As a man, can he go out and fix a tire on a car when it gets a flat tire? Can he go out and take care of his goats if he ever needs goats? You know what I'm saying? There's skills that we once had, men as men, women as women, as educators to our children or the neighbor's children or the cousins, it doesn't matter, but they're watching us in our roles and learning subconsciously how to do these things so that they grow up and they have skills to be independent. Absolutely. Make their own food, grow their own food, make their own clothes, and learn what it is that they really, truly need in life. You want to jump in?
Well, the men, in our Torah, okay, we understand that one of the punishments, that Hashem gave to men was that he would eat his bread by the sweat of his brow. Now, we know from our midrash that Hashem doesn't give punishments. Hashem, for the sake of hurting us, Hashem gives us punishments in order to refine us and to get us on the correct path. It's a correction. It's for our good. It's for our education and our betterment. The men, so let's look at the deeper meaning of eating your bread, okay? The bread is all the nourishment, the deep nourishment. I mean, you could survive on bread, even though it says you can't live on bread alone, but it turns out you can. So the nourishment that you get from the sweat, and we look at how many men are making money today. Chava said it so beautifully earlier today when we were discussing it. She said so many men are sitting in front of screens. They've got this kind of thin, emaciated body that is maybe somewhat feminine in a way, maybe. And it's considered what Chava said, sexy. That's considered, but this isn't how our bodies were supposed. This isn't how a man's body was supposed to look. We can get into a woman's body as well. Okay, men were given muscles and strength to work, and they're not using the muscles, and it's no wonder that so many men are feeling very upset and depressed. They're not using the skills, the tools that God gave to them. They're not living their potential. When a man goes out and he's chopping wood, or a man goes out and he's building and he's creating, or he's using his mind and his hands to create, I give a good example, a homemade washing machine. We hear all the time about these energy shortages we're going to have and whatever. How are you, Chava talked about, I don't know if it was your family who did it, but a bicycle-powered washing machine where you're riding the bike and that's spinning the clothes and washing the clothes. Okay? This is exploring the creativity of man with, of course, hopefully his wife, if he's married, they would work in harmony on these ideas and all this. But the man would go and he would think how to, build this and create this and work on it. And he'd be physically using his body. He's having physical sweat on his brow, from his brow. And that's how he eats not only his food, but the nourishment for his soul. If you think about bread as spiritual nourishment. And the mothers, our matriarchs, would pray for a child, saying, if you don't give me a child, I'll die. Why? Because the woman's fulfillment of her spiritual role, her growth, her ability to expand in all ways, comes through having children. Now, again, this is not to say that if a woman is experiencing fertility, which, by the way, I help with. You can check me out at wisewomanfertility.com for that. That doesn't mean that if a woman's experiencing infertility, or she's single, or she's, whatever, that her life isn't valuable. But her quickest path to spiritual enlightenment and growth is through childbirth. Just like the man's quickest route to spiritual enlightenment and growth is through work, the physical and mental work. Gender identity. I just want to take what Chava said just a step further, because we've already had it in our seminars when we talk about raising children. We've already had the questions. Well, one woman asked us about a friend or a neighbor or someone, and the daughter thinks she's a boy, and what do you do about this and all this? It's a huge issue right now. All you need to do is look around at the news and see how many government bodies around the world are making official statements about gender affirming children as young as birth, 3, and performing surgeries to change their gender. It's almost like there's a sudden epidemic of gender confusion, and people are, rightfully so, very concerned. However, if we look at what we've just explained, and we've just touched on it, about the roles of the female and the male, and how we can pass that on to our children, because really, that is our future. Even if you decide not to have children, or you don't have children, or Hashem didn't give you children, or whatever, we all agree that the children are our future. In fact, the Midrash says that when the angels wanted Hashem to not give us the Torah, that we would do what we're doing now. We would just make a mess of everything, and we wouldn't keep it, and we wouldn't have respect for it. Hashem finally agreed and the angels finally agreed when we made the argument that our children will be the safe keepers of the Torah, that we would pass it on to our children. It's so important to have children. And notice what the world governments are saying. Don't have children. Overpopulation. When you have children that you can teach and model and have loving relationships so that they're emotionally, I lost Chava, so that they're emotionally stable and sound, you have a lot of power. Yep. And they don't want us to have that kind of power. And so for gender identity, you're back, Chava. Yay! For gender, I felt alone. For gender identity, okay, it's very confusing when all the kids are taught the same 7 core subjects: math, reading, science, There's no difference in gender. So is it surprising at all to any of us that after generations of this education, indoctrination at an institution, that the children say, there is no gender. There's no difference between gender. We all do pee, we all do the bathroom at the same time. We all do recess at the same time. We all learn the same things. Why is he smarter than me? Why is that? We're all the same. If we're all sitting in front of screens, and the men are there sitting in front of a screen, and the women are sitting in front of a screen, why would there be a difference in gender? What's the difference? What are the unique roles that God separated out? Hashem created one man, and the man was a man-woman. The Midrash says that man and woman was combined. If you look at the 2 creation stories, yes, there are 2 of them. Genesis, okay, Bereshit. So it says that man and woman, Hashem created them. And then we have this story about Adam, who has Chava separated, and depending on your midrashic interpretation, from his side. It's been translated as rib in English, and but from his side, okay. Hashem created man and woman in his image. He created them. We were one being, male and female together, but it wasn't good. That wasn't good because we didn't realize that there were differences. We didn't realize there was a masculine and a feminine maslul, okay, order. track. Okay. And so Hashem said, it's not good for a man, meaning this person, to be alone. We need to separate it out, the masculine and the feminine, and we need to turn them towards each other. So the woman can be a helpmeet, an ezer kenegdo, right? A helpmeet against, meaning opposite, facing opposite, the man. And so there is a hierarchy. The men and women were the same being. They should be at the head of a home with the children underneath them. And the children, just like we see in the animal world, which Chava maybe can talk about, the little ducklings that follow the mother, all the animals that follow their mother around, and then they kind of go to the father, if that's a species where the father's involved. But these are children that want to mimic and imitate the parents. We cannot see the fruition of that when we send our children to an institution with strangers, a genenet who changes every year or every 2 years, with no real emotional attachment to our children, certainly not the way we have emotional attachment to our children. There's a lot of mess in our world, but it's very logical if you peel back the layers of the onion, how we got here. And all it takes is a little bit of courage to stand on what's right, to buck the system, and just go back to doing what our ancestors did, to do the right thing. Chava.
It's incredible. I would like to emphasize some points and ask you for your opinion. It's obvious that they weaponize the woman. And right now, it's very difficult for women to even interact with men. It seems like there is something broken there. So perhaps you can speak a little bit about what is the proper way to court a woman, because this art is lost. People have no idea what does it mean to court a woman anymore, and for a woman to recognize the values and the virtues in another man. So maybe you can speak about that at first, and then maybe you can say something to inspire women to realize that the call for them to go into the world and become slave wage is not the best thing that small creators, which are women, should do, because to be the backbone of the family is the most important and precious thing a woman can ever do. So maybe you can inspire them and, tell them what they forgot, that home is a blessing, children is, like you said, it's the spiritual fulfillment. So please inspire our members.
Men never ask me how to court a woman. Let's make sure this is being recorded, because I want to show my sons in a few years whatever I'm about to say. Hopefully then they'll be able to. I've been waiting for this moment.
So here you go.
Chava, you want to start?
The first thing that came to my head, and the simplest answer ever, is just be a man. Be a true man. Be in yourself, not trying to promote what you think a man is. Be in yourself a man, and that's it. I mean, if someone wants to take the time to look inside of himself and realize what that means to him, that shows the absolute truth. And what attracts a woman to a man is his manliness, nothing else. There has to be the connection, but that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for another woman. So that would be
when women feel that they are transgender, or they want to become a man, or even in many lesbian relationships, okay, don't throw your tomatoes. I didn't say all. I said most, which is still true. In most lesbian relationships, and also with gay men, there tends to be one partner who expresses more of the feminine and one partner who expresses more of the masculine. And it's very interesting that when women oftentimes are looking for women that have the short hair and the muscles, and they're strong and they're going to protect them. That's something Chava and I talked about before. Because really, for the woman to do her job, nourishing the husband, nourishing herself, Don't forget that, ladies. Nourishing, because a lot of us don't have mothers and family like we used to that looked out for us. Other women nourishers in our lives who are spoon feeding us after childbirth, or who come around, and check in on us when we're going through really difficult life experiences. But I have to digress for a second, because one of the things Harry mentioned was that how do we get women to remember that being the backbone of the family is the most important thing, and it is. But if you look at Eshet Chayil, which again, our Jewish tradition, I don't care where you stand on the Dati scale. This is our ancestral wisdom. Okay, it belongs to all of us. This is the wisdom of our ancestors. So Eshet Chayil, which a man says every week, every Friday night, okay, Kavua. The Eshet Chayil, it talks about her caring for her family, advising her husband who's out there at the gate. What's the gate? The elders, the Sanhedrin, the decision makers, the policy leaders. Okay, she's advising him. She's balancing his masculine energy, bouncing those ideas off of him while he's going out and doing it. And then it also talks about the woman who has a career. She's wheeling and dealing and making clothes and selling and all these things. Eshet Chayil is not about one woman on any one day of her life. It's about the lifetime of a woman and how man should appreciate her. Women move in cycles. Okay? Rosh Chodesh, the holiday of the woman. Okay? The moon, the menstrual cycle. They move in cycles. Now they're here, now they're there. There is a time and place for being the backbone of the family, the mom, the ima, the breastfeeding, the being home with little kids. Kashe me'od. It's very, very hard to be home with small kids, right? But it passes. It's a season. It's part of a cycle. And when it passes, you know as a woman when you can go, okay, you know what? I can go and have a business. I can go and do this. But again, a woman's in cycles. It's not, I was a mother, now I'm a businesswoman. No. Because then when her children call her, even the married children who just had a baby, now she goes back around and now she's nourishing the family again. She pulls back from the business, goes forward with the family. And then when that issue's taken care of, she reverses it because she's secular. She moves around. She's fluid. That's the dance of the woman. That's the beauty of the woman. That's one of the things that makes her very different than a man. And when we talk about courting a woman, men don't need to be secular. Women aren't looking for that. Men are the sun. They are constant. They are solid. They're rocks. They will be there. They're steady. They're also very protective. They protect the woman so that she can be there nursing the child. It's very vulnerable to give birth, to be pregnant. You can't walk around. You're like waddling around, feeling like a beached whale. You can barely move. If an attacker comes, who's going to protect you? Why would women feel safe to be pregnant, to be vulnerable, to sit breastfeeding a child? Men need to be there on the lookout. Men need to be there to defend her, to protect her. There used to be a saying, women and children first. Hide the women and children and first. Protect the women and children first. If there was a disaster, the women and children would go into hiding first. They would get on the boat and sail away first. All the men knew that. When the women would say, I want to stay, I want to fight. No, your job is to take care of the next generation, the most precious thing that we have. They need you, the ima, the mother, more than anything else. Children need their fathers. But they need their fathers to protect their mothers and to protect them so that they can be nurtured, insulated, and to grow and to thrive. And the woman will sometimes stand alongside her husband and be a protector. We know those women out fighting, doing all those things. Women can do that too. but they can't do it all the time. They got to move in a cycle. They have to be able to pull back and be gentle, be vulnerable, be nurturing, be caring. They have to heal the sick. They have to use the herbs and heal the men who are out protecting them and fighting. So the best way to court a woman, I think, is to make sure, just like Chava said, except Chava said it much faster and more efficiently than I did, as usual. Just be a man. Don't try to be a woman. Do the man thing, and the women will naturally be drawn, magnetized to you. And a woman, like all these men now who think they're women, and they put on some lipstick and put on some high heels and, do this. That isn't what a woman is. That's not what a woman is. Okay? I don't have to put on lipstick and go like that with my hand to be a woman. I can be I have a certain way of dress, which, by the way, is also our ancestral wisdom. Because men and women are supposed to look different. Because they're supposed to be drawn and attracted to each other. That's why there's a difference. It's not oppression of women or something. It's supposed to keep all the gender ideas in line so that it's very clear who's who. But anyway, I've gone on too long. That's a few ideas.
I love it. Do you feel comfortable to speak about sexuality, the divinity of sexuality? Because right now we are living in a society where there is hypersexuality, and I think it's a very bad thing. So maybe you feel comfortable speaking about that.
This is Rivkah's forte, definitely. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, so I do work with women on women's health issues speaking of businesses, I have two. I have wisewomenfertility.com and ancientrootsisrael.com. And I spent about 15 years in my house nursing babies and having babies, and thank God I have a large family, thank God. Chava's got a business, and she nurtured her babies. And Gilla, who's not here, also has a business, and that's not any coincidence. The skills, like I said, through mothering is the fastest way for women to grow and spiritually. And so I think we learned a lot of our entrepreneurial skills and management skills through our own businesses. Okay, but that being said, I'm also a certified Kala teacher and balanit. And about sexuality. Well, again, this is the wisdom of our ancestors. So there's a lot of weird feelings about the Dati'im and the Chilonim and the Misortim. And this is what I love about natural law, is that it really says, you know what, to let go of all those titles and all those things for a second. Let's just try and look at what the Creator had in mind here. Let's look at what our ancestors did. Let's try and figure out what's of value here and why we shouldn't throw it off so quickly after we've kept it for millennia. Why we should, within 50 years kind of throw it all away in the name of science and at the speed of science. And so one of the great traditions of our people, as well as many other people around the world, okay, is that sexuality and women's roles and men's roles are very sacred. And in Judaism, men and women don't touch each other unless they're a close relative, right? So a woman with her father, a woman with her grandfather, who's related through a parent, right? Her son, her husband, obviously. There's lots of hugging and all that stuff going on there. But a woman doesn't physically touch a man that she's not related to. And again, if we can strip down the stigmas, all the stigmas that we have about religion and whatever, and just look at it for what it is, that men and women don't touch, what is that creating when men and women don't freely touch? There's an easiness between women where we can touch each other. There's an easiness between men where they can touch each other and hug each other, whatever. But between men and women, it's not so easy. there should be a space. There should be a mechitza. There should be attention. There's a separation. Every time when I see a friend from before I became religious, I want to run up and give him a hug, and I'm like, so I tell him, I'm hugging you right now because I love him, and our friendship and our years. But it really is something powerful when you say, you know what? But that sparks something inside of the other person. We have a sexual response that is woken up. And it may not happen every time, but the more you separate, the more sensitive you actually get to it. And so when you're touching each other freely, you kind of lose some sensitivity. And then all of a sudden, like the boss falls in love with his secretary, or someone's having an affair, or, people are watching porn and there's billboards and naked women on top of cars. And, we've kind of lost our sensitivity. We've lost our intuition. We've lost our bina. But when we separate, we start to get sensitive again. Just like when we keep our children close to us, we start to be sensitive to our children. Instead of like letting your kids scream "ima, ima" at the gun while you walk away, just going, oh, okay, I have work. So sexuality, I think we have to start with becoming sensitive again. And of course, when we think about the act of sex, it should be a very sensitive act. Now, on the political left, we hear a lot about consent and all this stuff. But if you're having sex in the way our ancestors promoted it, then consent, of course you have consent. Like you're being very sensitive. You wouldn't want to do something that would hurt the other person or harm them in any way. You want the other person to feel loved and good physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just like you want to feel that way too. But it really does take developing your sensitivity again. And to do that, you have to stop being so free with your sexuality. You have to stop seeing the billboards, the porn, touching the other gender. And it's very hard to do when we're in a society that's, again, who set up this society? It wasn't only our people who were separating the genders. That existed in every culture all over the world. This isn't a dati thing or an anti-woman. This is all over the world. Men and women were separate, and they still are in many parts of the world. And there's a reason for that. And so, yeah, sex is not really enjoyable anymore. Fetishes, and all kinds of wacky, crazy whips and chains and whatever is now the norm. And it's now what we encourage people to do. That's why you see in schools all this sex education that is teaching children how to masturbate, how to use sex toys, how to have anal sex. This is what they're teaching to children in schools now. And it can only happen because, again, peel back the layers of the onions. We did this. We participated in a society with whatever lies we were told that this is real feminism. It's not feminism to be teaching your 8-year-old how to have anal sex.
Rivkah, let's take it back to the question of freedom. I would like to try to demonstrate something and then bring it back to sexuality for more words of wisdom. So the family produce individuals, which means eventually responsible individuals, moral individuals, and that may lead to freedom. The government and the kindergartens and the schools and the institutions create a collective hive mind of people, and that creates the matrix that we are trying to escape. So if we want to have a healthy family, we want to have healthy relationship, and sexuality, as you described so well, is a very important part of it. So can you tell us what are the injuries that are happening to the typical average secular Tel Avivian lady and man who had like 30 or 40 or whatever sexual relationships? Like, what happens to them psychologically, spiritually, if you can speak to that?
Chava, you can jump in at any time. I don't have to carry this.
Well, this is your thing. Something that we didn't touch on, that you alluded to the entire time, the separation, is nidah, which was built into our Jewish education for women, which they no longer see anymore. There's 2 weeks or whatever it happens to be for you on your cycle, of nida before you and your husband come back together. So even between married couples, there is a separation, which increases the excitement and the joy of coming back together instead of boredom. And then he goes off and finds someone younger because he's bored with the woman that he has at home. This way, it's always new. I just wanted to touch on that before, but Rivkah, you have to touch on this one because I don't know. This is your thing.
Tel Avivians. Why do we got to pick on Tel Avivians? I love Tel Avivians. Secular people anywhere. I love you, Tel Avivians. I'm not going to single you out. Okay, so there's well, I think we all know the answer, right? Because let's start from here, from a biblical perspective. I'm a religious woman. I'm observant. But again, I'm not trying to cram anything down anyone's throat. I'm trying to share the wisdom of our ancestors with you. It belongs to you. If I came from a different culture, I would share the wisdom of those ancestors with you. This is what I know. This is what we have as Jews. Okay? Sex has two separate mitzvot. Okay? One mitzvah, which actually falls kind of more on the man than the woman, actually is peru uruvu, right? Is to be fruitful and multiply. The other mitzvah is that a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife as one flesh. So sex serves two purposes. There's two mitzvot. One is to have children, and the other is to cleave together as one flesh and to kind of become the original man-woman, Adam v'Chava, right? Together. Okay? So what does this mean? The Catholics, I grew up in Catholic school. The Catholics believe that the purpose of sex is procreation. It's to have children, which we also believe. But the Catholics believe that's really the only purpose of sex. The church has changed since the Second Vatican. Things have changed. But if you go back and you look at church canon in the Middle Ages, you go back, procreation, you needed to go to your wife. I'm thinking about Henry the, oh Lord, don't fail me now. Was it Henry the Sixth, who was married to Margaret of Anjou? And he was told on his wedding day by his confessor that he should not have sex in the first week because it's an act of holiness. It's only for creating children. Of course, she was barren for 7 years. Okay? It gets really like high tension if every sexual encounter has to be about having children. And what happens when you don't want children anymore? No sex for you, son. You're done. Say you've got your 7 kids in your first, 14, 13 years of marriage. No more sex for the rest of marriage until your wife hits menopause. I mean, that's their belief. I'm not knocking it. I'm not making any commentary. I'm just saying it's not ours. Our ancestral wisdom says, even if you're not having children, if you're barren, if you're infertile, if you're done, if you're using birth control or whatever, you still need to do the mitzvah of having sex in order to cleave as one flesh. That's still one of the mitzvot we're commanded to do. Where am I going with this, Harry? What was the question again?
I was asking about the injuries.
Tel Avivians, but not
the injuries that they carry.
Injuries. Okay, so now what happens is that you've got your singles, and why are they having sex? Why are people having sex? Honestly, if people wanted to make their sexual organs feel good, they could do that with masturbation. They don't have to have sex with someone else, right? So why are people doing this? Why are they having sex? Again, just like we have to look at school as an institution, we have to examine things for what they really are. Why are people really having sex? Lonely, don't want to go to sleep alone. They don't want to be alone. They want to be loved. They want to connect with someone. They want to have someone to share themselves with, their intimate secrets of their heart, of their body, of their mind, of their soul. It's not good for man to be alone. Again, our ancestral wisdom. But when people are kind of running around and hooking up, it's also this kind of instant gratification. It's like an alcoholic with a drink, or someone who's out of control with food and they eat. There's like a euphoria when they're satisfying that craving, and then they become hungry again. And there's also a whole culture that's set up around it. So the injuries, they first risk the desensitization that I was speaking about. They're no longer sensitized to the other gender. They're confused. And in this kind of world, porn and fetishes and all these things abound. So the second, I guess, ill would be people, innocent people who just want to be loved, suddenly hook up, we call it hooking up in English, with someone who uses whips and chains or has some other fetish, And now that's become part of their sexual repertoire. Maybe they didn't want that, but now they start to teach their bodies to get sexually excited, turned on about it. And now it's part of who they are, what makes them feel loved and connected. Having children is a natural consequence of having sex. That's how it is. You can use birth control. You can have abortions. You can do all these things. We've seen it all in the political arena. But we have to go into sexual encounters knowing that we can create a new life. And when you're hooking up and you're having all these partners and you just want to feel good and have sex and do, and what, it's just like there's no real understanding about the fact that you could create a new life. Your birth control can fail. Things can fail. And then what happens? What kind of life are you bringing this baby into? We just talked about the importance of the mother and the father in the life of a child. A mother who's hooking up with different men doesn't even know who the father is, doesn't even necessarily tell the father. The man loses his ability to be a father, which is such a gift. It's his future. It's his inheritance. It goes on and on and on. And then, of course, if the woman doesn't want to have a baby, she's faced with abortion. And our ancestors did not take loss of life lightly, no matter what secular Jews will tell you. Abortion is allowed, but only under certain circumstances where the life of the mother is in jeopardy. It's not supposed to be like, I just don't want it, but I want to have more sex, so we think less of life. The sacredness of life goes down the toilet. It's expendable. And then how can we really love? How can we really have self-confidence? How can we be independent? How can we be free? How can we have our own thoughts and get out of a system when we don't even believe life has any value? It just goes on and on. It's extraordinary how dangerous it is.
I would just like to say that when we are using the term abortion, we are like washing it up. It's like it's murder, unless, of course, a woman has to use self-defense. So we have a question here from Ahuva. Ahuva, do you want to ask a question or should I do that?
Hi, good evening, ladies. I'd like to ask Chava. You said that you had 6 kids, right? So I wanted to ask you, how is it to be with 6 kids at home, technically speaking? Sounds very, very difficult.
Oh, no, definitely not difficult. Actually, I have 6 boys, of all things, if you can imagine.
Wow.
Rivkah has 7, and they're all mixed up, so she's got some variety. But I have 6 boys, homeschooled, yes. Lots of action, always fun. I don't have the blessing of what it is to raise a girl, but boys, I can tell you, they're just so full. And when you give them that freedom to really be men, protectors, warriors, they're just using each other to wrestle and fight and learn the role of a protector. And I love seeing it. And it's so much fun. Never hard, never too much, full of energy. I only have good things to say. It's fun.
Did you have a program every day on what you were doing, or it was like improvising every time?
So when I first started homeschooling, I really did try to create a kind of schoolroom and hours and programs, and I really tried. But we also run a farm, and it just was really hard because there's the hours when you need to be out with the animals, but it's also you're supposed to be in learning. It didn't work. It took me a couple of years to figure that out. And I tried many things along the way. Just I had to experiment because there's no book that told me this is what you need to do in your situation with 6 boys, right? There's no book like that. So it's a lot of experimentation. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of basically letting the kids lead. Each one is different. Each one learns differently. Each one has his own skills and his passions, and they're developing as you are kind of developing. I wouldn't call it a curriculum because I never followed one. So in the end, where we are right now, which has been 23 years, we just kind of follow interests. I call it interest-led. When a child, wants to learn to play guitar, I get him the books. We sit down. He spends as much time as he wants learning it. When he wants to know how much sugar and flour to put into a cookie recipe, that's math. And we go through that. You have to learn what 1/4 of a cup is and grams and ounces, and it's all math, and it's just recipes. And so that's kind of how we continue. There's no set schedule. There's no textbooks that we follow, although we have many, many workbooks, and we just kind of pick one up depending on what the child feels like doing at the moment. And it really does go from moment to moment. We'll be in the middle of something. You'll be like, okay, I'm done. Let's go do this. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more questions, guys? You can even ask in Hebrew. אפשר שאלות בעברית אם אתם רוצים.
I have another question. I wanted to ask now that we know the agenda of the elites. Would you recommend to have more babies, or to avoid it?
Rivkah, do you want to say something before I step in?
I can also say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely more children. You have to continue the genetic line of dissidents and people who understand freedom and morality. So the more the better and fast as possible. Never mind the challenges. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Thank you,
That's
Robert.
amazing. So let me just say, because I have been posed with this question before, that we've even come to this position where people are asking these questions it's mind-blowing. I understand the dilemmas that we're all facing, but the way I see it is that just like so many other tragedies throughout the world, whether it's the Holocaust or any other large catastrophe, there's always an end and then a new beginning. And we have to be ready for that. And the elites, or whatever you want to call them, their program for us is to end humanity and to continue, whatever lines or whatever their decisions are with certain specific special bloodlines or whatever crap you want to call it. And our job is to do the absolute opposite of their program. We need to keep up our creativity. We need to be excited about sex, about our partners, about the future, about what we are going to turn it into, because in the end, it's not up to them. They think they're in control right now. Okay, fine. It will come to an end, and then it will be up to us. And if we're not ready, because we all gave up that blessing and privilege of having children, then we have destroyed that opportunity for the next generation, because there won't be a next generation. And we really are instructed to be fruitful and multiply. We are instructed to carry on God's word. We are instructed to be the leaders of whatever plan is coming next. But we are going to take the future into our own hands, or our children. And if there's no one to do it, then they've won. And we refuse to let that happen. Rivkah?
Great answer. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Open your mic, ask a question, say thank you, anything. I will kick you out otherwise. No, it doesn't work.
Thank you very much.
תודה, לירן. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for the lecture.
Okay, so let me just say something before Rivkah goes on. One thing that we didn't talk about was the financial aspect of separating ourselves from the system. So if we're all tied to our phones, and maybe in a while, the chips that they want to put into our hands or our heads or whatever, credit cards, all of these things, these financial institutions that literally control our lives at the present moment, there is a future without them. And if we wait for all of these financial institutions to fall, which they're coming to a collapse soon, we will be without any resources. And so from now, we need to plan in our heads and at home every possible way to take care of ourselves. And again, I keep touching on, and Rivkah does too, our food source, whether it's foraging or growing our own food, learning how to make bread and cheese and create your own meals from almost nothing, from what is available outside. So one thing that is so important that we've touched on many times is to, even if you have a balcony or a rooftop on your building and you can grow in pots, small amounts or whatever of vegetables, herbs, whatever it is that you can get to grow, because not only are you feeding yourself, but you have what to trade. If there is no money, whether it's paper money or whatever, there won't be any money circulating in the future. We have each other. We have my broccoli traded with your lettuce. There is no money needed. We have a connection made between us. I trust you, you trust me. We're self-sufficient. We don't need so much more than that. So as an example, I have goats. I create milk. I have it. My neighbors will use it, and they will give me, their squash or whatever it happens to be. So we have each other. We have taken care of our families, and we don't need the government. We have completely stepped away in that scenario. So we need to think in our heads how to get there. Am I going to take a pot and plant some basil? Perfect, right? So now you have something for your own, but also to trade, whatever it might be. I'm using food as an example, but it could be a skill. It could be something that you have that you do. These kind of things to interact with each other on a very, very basic level where there's no money involved. Super important.
All true. I'm sending a few things. I actually went onto Chava's website, Nettles and Pins, while Chava was speaking, and put it into the chat on the group. Chava has a Returning to festival that I think is really great for beginners to start to learn some of these new self-sufficiency skills in a really accessible, easy way. And I put the link in the chat. And this is a service that Chava provided for all of us for free. So really, really thank you, Chava, for that. And, don't be like this woman with the eye infection, and it goes beyond that. One of the classes that Chava has in her Returning to festival actually involves my sister. And she talks about birthing, having a free birth where she planned on going to the hospital, but because of all these rules and regulations that were demanding she have medical procedures done to her body, she decided to walk away from that system and have her baby on her own terms at home. And you can hear about her experience, which is absolutely incredible. But the best way to not, this is where we all panic, is when we're sick, when our children are sick, when our parents are sick, when our loved ones are sick, and we want to run to a doctor, Ancient Roots Israel, if you go to ancientrootsisrael.com, you can look right there. We have videos on different pages. You can go to our YouTube channel. I know it's YouTube, but for now it's there. And all the links are at ancientrootsisrael.com. I have created hundreds of free videos to walk people through my experience treating dog mauling, scorpion stings, all sorts of different illnesses. I gave for 1 year, first daily, then weekly plant walk, a virtual plant walk, which you can find on the website on our tab. On a mobile device, it's 3 horizontal lines. You can click on it and you can choose virtual plant walk to see the virtual plant walk series. But I went out in my backyard around my neighborhood here in Israel, just identifying different plants, talking a little bit about its medicinal uses or its culinary uses, so that, again, for the financial aspect that Chava was talking about, you don't need the medicine or the food. You can wildcraft, you can, scavenge for food, you can find your own safe plants to eat, just like the chubeza, the mallow that was used when our people were under siege in Jerusalem. This is also a plant that we cover in our first aid course. Chava covers it beautifully, about how to identify the plant, how to use the plant, all sorts of incredible information. So go and get yourself educated, because the more comfortable you get with these skills, the more you can help others, teach others, and the less you need the system. So that when you have that eye infection, you're not in a panic. You just go, oh, I got this. I can take care of this. And your friend has the same thing. You don't need to go to a hospital. You don't need to go to the doctor. Hang on, let's try this and see how that works. None of us are saying not to seek medical attention or care when necessary. Okay, I usually give this disclaimer, because our profession, being a doctor, okay, when we think about Rambam, we're so proud of our ancestor Rambam, the greatest doctor, one of the perhaps of all time. He wasn't a doctor in the Western medical model. He didn't prescribe any pharmaceuticals. He was an herbalist, and he was a spiritual person who was able to see the spiritual components to illness, as well as using the plants that Hashem puts right in our yard. It's magic. It grows right from the ground. Hashem created the cure before the illness. We walk right out our front door. The cure is right there. But our profession as healers, as wise women or doctors or whatever, has been appropriated. And herbalists are no longer allowed to say that they are healers, or treat anyone, or, prescribe an herb or any terms like that, because that's how far this system has gone in controlling our mouths, our words, and our reality and our history. So at any rate, we're not approved by the CDC, the FDA, the World Health Organization, the NIH, or the Ministry of Health of any country anywhere. Everything we say is for informational purposes only and not to treat any medical illness. We have to say this because this is what the system has created for us, and we all need to meditate on that. That a person like Rambam would have had to say the same thing that I just said. What's Cariella?
Career.
Oh, career. Oh, career. Okay.
אוקיי. קודם כל, זה לא או זה או זה, אף פעם. זה החיים שלנו, אנחנו חופשיים לעשות מה שבא לנו, אבל לעשות קודם את המשפחה, ומהמשפחה הזאת מקבלים את כל הכלים שאנחנו חייבים לפתוח עסק. לומדים את זה או באוניברסיטה או בתוך כדי, אבל בשום מקום אחר לא מקבלים את הכלים שצריך בשביל העסק, רק במשפחה. בין איך לטפל בילדים, ארוחות, זה, והכל לפי סדר, לפי יום, שיהיה מספיק זמן להכל. זה הרבה להיות מסודר בראש ובבית, ושהילדים מבינים את זה, שהם נותנים את הרספקט שמקבלים, והביטחון, והאינטואיציה, והרבה דברים שמקבלים, ואז מוכנים לגמרי לפתוח איזה עסק, קריירה, מה שרוצים. איך להסביר את זה למישהו? אני נותנת... פשוט אני משתמשת בדוגמה של החיים שלי. ועוד כמה, אבל אי אפשר להסביר משהו בלי שהם רואים את זה בעיניים, בעצמם. אז אם אני משתמשת בדוגמה החיים שלי, אז זה הרבה יותר קל, שהם ממש מבינים את זה ורואים את זה ומקבלים את זה. רבקה?
Good day to all. My name is A Goodman and I'm an English speaker. I hope that you guys don't mind me. I'm from India. I would like to listen that what's going on here.
There's a song that that was on, I think, Sesame Street. Rachov Sum Sum, Bishvil Yeladim, אבל זה היה באנגלית. And the song went, try it, and you might like it. It was trying to get the kids to try like broccoli. I'm still jamming to it in my head. It's such a good song. I mean, women need to try it. They need to just try it. But here's the thing. You can't force a woman. Because honestly, if a woman is held to be a mother by force, like you need to stay home, she's going to reject her child. She's going to create all sorts of problems for you. She's going to blow this joint. She's going to show you who's boss. That isn't the way. That's not the way. The way goes back to how do you court a woman? Because really, we have to create a society that shows that this is valuable. We've created a society where money is valued, where money is the valuable thing. And so people have these great ideas like, oh, well, I know what we could do. We could get the government to give the mother a stipend to raise her kid. That's how we'll encourage the mother. No, we're thinking in a slave mentality. Peel back the onion. Take out the government. We don't need the government. I don't need anyone else's money. Women shouldn't need anyone else's money to want to raise their own children or love their own children. The problem is way deeper, and you ain't going to solve it with money. So one way that men can help support that is when a woman has a baby, the man can, instead of saying, I want to be able to feed the baby, or I want to be able to hold the baby, let's give the baby a bottle, let's, whatever. The husband can say things like, our child loves you so much and needs you so much. Do you see how much he loves you? Do you see how much he loves being close to your heart and nursing? I can imagine the security and warmth and what this person's going to be like being held and loved. Thank you for nursing our baby. And I see that you're up every 28 minutes all night long nursing this baby. You know what? Let me get up and get you a glass of water. Let me give you a foot massage while you're nursing, because I know this is hard and I know that you're tired. And it's a hell of a lot easier to just give me a bottle and go back to sleep and say it's my turn. I appreciate you for giving our baby the best. I love you. You know, going up to a woman who's breastfeeding her baby in public and, you know, smiling at her. You don't have to say anything. Just look straight in her eyes. Don't look at her breasts. Just look straight into her eyes and just give her a smile to let her know that you see her breastfeeding her child. Men and women can both do this. When asking questions, a lot of times people ask women, oh, what hospital are you going to give birth at? You don't have to ask those questions. You can ask questions like, oh, are you, have you thought about home birth? Or, where are you planning on giving birth? Or do you need anything? Would you like a meal? Something like that. Just leaving it open-ended instead of imposing things. Stop telling a woman to tap down her intuition. Instead, help build it up. So when the baby's crying, you can say, if you're a husband or a friend or another woman or whatever, you've got this. You'll figure it out. You'll figure out what's going on. Everything's going to be okay. I know it's frustrating. Instead of the baby needs this and you need to set the baby down and you need to, instead of jumping in and trying to make all the decisions, we need to give the mother this space to hear her own voice again. And when we do that, I want to see if I have any other notes about it. Yeah, a culture of respect. A culture of respect. If someone makes a comment to a woman, ew, you're breastfeeding, go into a room and you can say, wow, that's not really supportive. That's not nice. Or you can say, like, oh, I'll go with you if you're another woman. I'll go with you. If you're not welcome here, then I must not be welcome here either. Take a stand. Value women. Value motherhood. Give the woman the space. Don't go to her and say, our account's overdrawn. We're in overdraft. Anachnu b'minus. Manase. Don't put your financial things, if you're the man, on the woman. It's your job. It's your job to do the work if you want her raising the kids. She can't do both. She really can't. Not in the beginning. At some point, she can start to kind of balance it out where she can do what we're all doing, having our businesses and also raising the kids, but know that the kids come first. There's a lot of things we can do as individuals to create that kind of culture. And also supporting the mother. When a mother comes to you and says, Oy va'avoy, I dropped my child off at Dagan, וזה היה כל כך קשה לי, והוא לשמוע שהילד בוכה, והוא אומר, אמא, וזה נשבר לי את הלב. You can say, נכון, את צודקת. זה לא בסדר. הוא צריך אותך. את צודקת. Your intuition is correct. Your Bina is on point. You can listen to it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to take him there. Support her, validate her when her intuition starts to say those things. Anyone can do it, a man or a woman, without saying, no, he should be in God, or without saying, what are you, crazy? He shouldn't be in God. Just support her. Don't make a comment and let her own voice, because if we're always telling the mother what to do, that voice, that intuition that she has is never cultivated. She can't hear it. There's so much noise in her head. When we're quiet and we say, you'll know what to do. You've got this. You're doing such a beautiful job with this baby. He needs you so much. When we're saying those supportive observations, you can start to think, wow, this is really important what I'm doing. I don't want to go back to work and have him cry and put him away. I want to be with him. things will change. It's not hard.
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask a continuation of the last question because I felt like it wasn't sharpened enough, but I really wanted to know your opinion. What would you say to a woman who really wants to invest in her career, but in her career only? Means like a lot of women today, they invest their time in their job, in their get more promotion in the job, but they will choose to use the money that they have to raise their kids. Means to spend the least time possible with the kids, so they can go to work and use the money to pay someone else to take care of them. What would you say to a woman like that? What is the trigger that may convince her to act differently? If you think she should act differently.
I wouldn't say anything to the woman. We need to talk to the men. I'm talking to you, men. Don't have sex with that woman. Don't marry that woman. When you're dating, he's not the one for you. Choose wisely. Don't just create babies willy-nilly with people. Sacred sexuality. Pick a wife who's going to stick by you, who's going to share your vision of the world. Choose wisely. Those women are out there. You don't need to go with those women. Don't support them. Have you heard about these feminists that have like a strike on sex with men? It happens all the time. Like in America, they'll say like when this abortion thing came up and they want to take away their abortion rights or something like this, the feminists are calling for stopping, no having sex with men. They're telling all the women, if you want abortion rights, you tell your husbands, I'm not having sex with you till you go out and protest in the streets and get the abortion rights back. And it's been used throughout history. If you read The Second Sex from, what's her name, Simone something, the French author. Okay, this has been used, the suffragettes, all the, yes, right. Okay, so you women use this as a tool and have used this throughout, going way back to the French Revolution and beyond. Okay, why are men playing the victim here? You too have power. Don't marry a woman like that. If that's not what you want, there are so many women out there who would love to have a man come up to them and say, you know what, I want you to be your full self. If you're creative, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want a career, all of that, but I want you to know, I really want the mother of my children to invest in them. And I trust that you'll know the time when you can go back to your career and do those things. But I also want a woman, I want to create for her a space where she can raise our children and be attached to them with love and care for them. I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to make sure you have the mental support, the financial support, whatever you need to do that. But that's what I'm looking for in a wife. Again, this is religious people, not trying to stuff anything down anyone's throat. But before, in our ancestral wisdom says we don't go making babies with people before we date. We don't touch them. We don't create any sparks or any false, excitement, sexual excitement in ourselves. Don't touch them. Stay distant. Sit down. Have a conversation. This is important. These are your children. You don't want to be trying to control a woman. You can't control a woman. She's like a fish. She's wiggly. She'll just slide around. She'll do her own thing. Don't try to control her. Marry right at the outset.
We also have our podcast, Ancient Roots Mothering. I think it's like 8 episodes so far or something, where this is what we're talking about. We are dealing with these exact questions. We're dealing with women who are in this position, and we are showing them alternatives and what it was to be a mother in ancient times without saying, oh, you're old fashioned or something. This is the true woman, and how to get there and how to create that excitement in somebody who might be, being pushed by society, by money, by their career, all these things. We're showing them the other side. This is what we're talking about in our podcast every single month. So she should tune in and listen to us.
Could you share the link, please, Chava?
They are all, I just want to make it very simple. One is on my website. I have a page. All of the episodes are listed. The other is Rivkah's, which is the ancientrootsisrael.com. It's all listed on her page as well. So nettlesandpins.com, you'll find it, Ancient Roots Mothering, a page, and you click on that. Everything's archived there. I'll just say this was really fun. And it's always exciting for us to be introduced to a new group of people, because we're trying to get this idea out where, women are being pushed into this whole separate from your children and go towards the money, but we don't need to be. And so this is really exciting for us. Thank you so much for having us. To bring these ideas and get people, excited again about life and love and children and all of this. Thank you.
And thank you so much to your audience, our audience, for Nishbarta Shanaim, for breaking their teeth on English to ask us questions and to listen to this in English. It was a much richer lecture in English than it would have ever been, at least for me, in Hebrew. So I really appreciate the patience and the opportunity. Thank you for inviting us, Harry.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.